So maybe one question we should also ask is, what should a customer ask? At the moment in Europe, we're seeing somewhat of a rush for companies to get ready for the Falsified Medicines Directive, which we have, and it's similar over here for the Drug Supply Chain Security Act, even a bit earlier. What questions should a customer be asking when they evaluate the software vendor? And we clearly like them to use rfxcel, but other vendors are available.
Absolutely.
How should they differentiate?
Absolutely. And of course, we know there are business requirements that are always key drivers in this area, and cost is a functional aspect of any business. You can't avoid that. But then there are some compliance factors that are much more costly than just making business decisions. So let's talk about that a little bit. The first is maintaining your validated state. How is your organization designed and capable of maintaining that state? Which means if you're in a scenario where you have a vendor who's providing you with continuous updates all the time, and you're in a situation where you have to now constantly validate because you're no longer in the previous state of compliance that you were in, this is something to think about. Because that could be in itself be a very laborious and task-burdening objective on its own. You could very easily spend a lot of money just trying to maintain that aspect of your business and not even get business done.
Right.
The second aspect of this is how well is risk being controlled on your end? Is your vendor providing you with a risk process up front for everything that's provided for your system? Which then allows you as the recipient to make your own risk decisions, or even decide maybe I'd like to follow what the vendor has in place. Those two things are very critical. I think the third thing that's very important to me is how is the vendor improving itself and being transparent about its improvement programs. You know, it's nice to see that folks are saying, hey, I'm doing continuous improvement programs, but if the transparency isn't there on what they're doing to improve this and our customers are not seeing that, or potential customers are not seeing that, these are things to think about, because very soon you could be in a position where you're changing your contract from within a year.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the other issue that we see a lot is the gradual shift from manufacturers to distributors and dispensers as these regulations roll through the supply chain.
Right.
Are there any differences or any commonalities even with what dispensers and distributors need to do versus the manufacturers?
Absolutely. There are some key subtle differences there. But I think one of the things that's very important from the manufacturer standpoint when they get out to distributors and dispensers, is that we want to ensure that they're getting the best quality of data. And that transparency in the quality of data, which we talked about as part of our initial guidelines for this conversation, is that it cannot be adulterated. So the process of getting data information from one point to the next doesn't leave opportunities for threats to occur. And especially as the pipeline grows, those opportunities increase.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you have the Falsified Medical Directive coming into place, these are areas that they will look at as well as just part of DSDCA.
Yeah, absolutely. And ultimately the sanction is no data, no sale. Right?
That's correct. That's what it is at the end of the day, right? If you don't have good data or unadulterated data, you know, you can't have a point of sale.